I would rather I'd sell the business and I'd be done. Like there's no way that I'm gonna do this every week. I need to give Facebook 40 creatives, let it decide. If it decides this is a winner, great, put it in scaling. Like you just have to make it easier on yourself. Like you can't be like so scientific and like, well, like I gotta have statistical significance on like this ad set versus like enough. Like just make it simple.
All right, boys, we're back for number 6. I'm a little sunburnt. I'm peeling like crazy, almost as tan as Ash, but hey, I'm keeping up. I'm still beating Cody, so here we are. We're back for another episode of Adspend. Cody is back. There might be some feistiness. He has overcame the Rona like a legend. He has a new house on the way. He also has another thing on the way, a baby Cody.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So how exciting is that?
A girl though, so not a baby me.
Yeah, but even more exciting. So congrats there.
Thanks,
Ash is
man.
looking
Appreciate
fresh in his fancy hip hoodie as always. And so I think today we're going to get into a little bit of how to optimize post iOS 14. I'll drop some knowledge. Cody will drop some knowledge. Ash will drop some knowledge. We'll kind of circle it in a vat and then give it to you guys in a beautiful podcast format. So without further ado, Cody, take us away.
Yeah, dope. This was kind of my idea, what I wanted to chat about, because it's definitely something I have been struggling with. I am no expert at it. I don't know if anybody is an expert at it, to be totally honest. So I just would love to chat about it because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are struggling with this, who are frustrated. It's no surprise that Facebook attribution is absolutely terrible. I mean, I tweeted the other day, but like I was just looking at our exclusions, and I was looking at our Klaviyo 180-day purchasers compared to Pixel 180-day purchasers, and the Pixel is like a third of the size. Yeah. Like it is crazy how bad attribution is, and in both ways, in terms of over reporting and under reporting. So I think you absolutely need first party data. You need to use MER, but I think a lot of people say that, and there's only so much you can say on Twitter. So I figured let's just talk about it, and Ash and I will share what we're actually doing to optimize our ads. And then Rabba can obviously share everything that he's seeing being inside of Triple Whale.
You're getting good at this, Cody. That was pretty smooth. Yeah, I just kind of tossed it over to you.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Once you get a studio, it's over. It's over, people. He's hot. He's hot.
So, Ash, you talked, obviously you dropped some heat, 2 pods ago about your creative testing. Obviously, with that much creative testing you're doing, you must be looking at what's working, a lot of optimization. What's your process for that? How much you use in Facebook? How much you use in GA? How much you use in Triple Whale?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that I've learned to stop doing is looking at Facebook as like your North Star, right? I've kind of done the test with like all the different attribution windows, and I've seen over-reporting, under-reporting, some situations where the reporting is kind of matched up to, these other things like GA and Triple Whale. I've kind of had to really just pick one and stick with it and see if the overall kind of starts to follow, right? So what I've been doing recently is literally only looking at the data from Triple Whale Pixel, right? So, 2 pods ago I mentioned, the whole creative testing. We launch everything on a Sunday at midnight, and I let it run for 7 days, right? So basically,
no matter what, just for people hearing, no matter what, even if it's terrible, you're letting it run.
So actually, it's crazy because last week I had a really bad test that just wasn't performing. So I did cut it like maybe 2-3 days earlier than I usually would have, right? And that's just how it is. Like you might have a really good test, you might have an okay test, and you might just have a shit test, and that's it, right? But the way that I'm deciding that is I'm looking strictly at Triple Whale, right? So for example, yesterday I even tweeted, Sunday, right? Day 1 of testing for the week, $1,000 budget, and Facebook said I had $183 CPA. Okay. Obviously, you're not going to get data for 72 hours, so you got to let it run, this and that. But like, I don't want to rely on waiting 72 hours, and I'm sure there's other advertisers who don't have that budget to let something run for 72 hours at like $1,000 a day, right? So you need to know what direction these ads are going in as soon as possible, just so that, and it depends on the advertiser and their budgets, right? So looking at Triple Whale, at least for my testing, when I'm testing top of the funnel, and Rava, you can kind of get into this later, but I'm really looking at first click attribution, right?
Yeah.
I want to know which of my ads created that awareness and eventually led to a conversion, right? I want to know what brought somebody into my ecosystem and later on converted them. Right?
That's because you want them to kind of take a lot of touch points and buy later on, right?
I prefer.
I told you he was back, folks. I tried to tell you he was back.
No, but I mean, I'm optimizing. So at least my tests are on a 7-day click, right? But I really want somebody to click, or I want to know which ad introduced them to the brand, right?
For sure.
Whether they go down the funnel.
Obviously, I'm just joking. Yeah.
Points.
Okay.
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
but I'm surprised that you're using first click. Like that's your main North Star.
Yeah. And what I have been seeing is that since January until now, because I've now consistently done this process from January until now, the testing creatives every week, following Triple Whale, using that first click attribution as the North Star, I've seen our NCPA drop. Like if you go and pull up our monthly, it's literally like this. So now I have reason to believe that is just the way it's going to work for us on an overall level. So I'm going to continue to do that, right? So basically, I let it run for a week. I'm looking at, I'm monitoring first click, which has the lowest NCPA of all the ads, which one's getting the most spend. And then I'm really just taking those ads and moving it into my scaling campaign, right? If that ad is beating the lowest performing ad in my scaling campaign, I'll just replace it, right? Kind of resets the learning, and then the next week we'll see how it performs with technically a new environment, right?
And so you're only doing that once a week, like you're only moving something into scaling once a week at the very most?
Mm-hmm. Like
Otherwise,
minimum once a week or maybe every 2 weeks, depending on if the test is beating my control, right? That would be the only reason to move something over.
Yeah.
Right.
Or if my control is starting to perform badly.
What are you doing if you're halfway through the week and your results are terrible? Are you doing anything to that scaling campaign? Are you touching it, or you're just letting it ride out? You're just focusing on creative testing and you fix it next week. What do you do?
So here's where I think we're in a good place, because now I'm constantly pumping out creatives. I don't have to worry about the weekly performance because I will have new stuff to replace it. So my weeks are a lot less volatile because they're technically newer creatives that have been proven, right? Whereas before, if I wasn't swapping out creatives as often, this stuff would probably be running for like months on end. And if I have a shit week, it's because it's probably hitting that fatigue level, right? So then,
but you're being proactive because you're being exactly. So proactive about it. You're not really finding that like steep drop off.
Exactly. The only time we ever actually see anything is, for God knows what reason, Mondays are our worst days. Like, you'll have a Sunday that's just a monster day, and then the next day, as soon as 12 a.m. hits, it's like conversion rate drops, NCPA increases, and like Monday is just the worst day. Then Tuesday it gets back to normal, and Wednesday gets better, Thursday gets better, Friday gets better. And like, it's the weirdest cycle that I've seen, and I have no idea. But like, that I just know that Mondays aren't the best day, and I have to just let things run for the rest of the week. And it's like, okay, well, at least I know that I'm doing everything I can on the creative side, that I'm always going to swap out new creatives for new winners and this and that. So it can't be creative. That's the issue. It's just, I don't know. It could be a Facebook thing. It's just, maybe it's our demographic that just doesn't buy on Monday. I don't know. I can't believe, or I'm not led to believe it's like a creative issue. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I have a thesis there, if I can interject, because our Mondays are horrible too. I mean, we're obviously B2B SaaS, so it's not necessarily in line with B2C or D2C. But I actually think, and just anecdotally, like, my Mondays are hell. I actually think people work on Mondays. And that's my thesis. Like, nobody shops on Mondays. That's like the one work day. Even if you're not a workhorse, you actually do work on Monday. And that's my big brain thesis.
I think so. I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah. No, it's just been very noticeable for the last 2 years. And like, if we over at the office, we're like, oh, today's slow. Oh, it's Monday. It's a Monday. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. You just can't do anything about it. You just got to let it run, you know? Because if you make decisions based on one day, and that too being a day that you know historically doesn't do well, you're going to screw your shit up. So like, keep it going, you know, just have trust in yourself that you're doing what you can do to kind of keep things less volatile.
Okay.
Can I ask you something? Or go ahead, Cody.
No, you go.
Have you tried using like cost caps or bid caps where you keep the budget, but then you just modulate those cost caps and bid caps where like on Mondays, for example, you would put the cost caps or bid caps, basically cost controls, lower those. So they'll still play if the market's good, but if not, they'll kind of save you some money. And then on Tuesday through Friday, what have you, you just skyrocket those cost caps to, you know, maybe 3-4x your target CPA. And then because you won't mess with the algorithm in that much, or in that way, you're really not challenging the algorithm as much as you are, because those budgets are already kind of hard coded. You're just telling the stockbroker essentially, don't be so drunk. Here's only what you can spend.
I think last September till around December, I was fully all in on cost caps, right?
Yeah.
After that in January, when I was like, here is my process, here's what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to deviate from that, right? I have like simplified our entire media buying process. Like, I don't want to mess around with cost caps. I don't want to mess around with the bids. I don't want to have to go into the ad account more than once a week, right? All I want to do is I just want to see if my NCPA is lining up with our KPIs, right? For example, last Monday and the Monday before, right? Our NCPA was above average for a Monday, right? Like, our NCPA goal is 55, okay? Our NCPA last Monday was $70. The week before last month, that previous Monday was $70. And then throughout the week it lowers, right? But this was the first Monday we were actually at 55, which means it wasn't the worst Monday. But because we're still making all these tweaks, and we introduced TikTok, right? We're scaling TikTok, and those CPAs are so much lower than Facebook right now. It's bringing our overall average down. So now it's like, okay, I'm keeping my spend where Facebook is right now, and I'm going so hard on TikTok so that it's bringing everything down. And now I just got to like rinse, repeat. So that's where I'm like, okay, well, this Monday could be worse, right? Like a week ago, I was $15 higher. Now I'm like at my goal. And now throughout the rest of the week, I'm actually under my goal. So that's kind of like, you just got to keep working at it and like nitpicking at it, trying to keep bringing it down as much as you can. I mean, set yourself a goal and then just work towards that, you know, just get a little bit better every week.
I love that.
So I just want to get back on track a little bit with like the optimization and like how you're looking at things. So data delays, right? You're not even looking at Facebook. Triple Whale, you're able to get some data back sooner because it doesn't have to get delayed, pushing back. You're looking at, there still are going to be delays though, because obviously on the first day, it's not going to cover all the conversions that happen if a lot of them are happening outside of the first day. Are you looking at do you like to look at any leading indicators? Do you like to look at any on-platform ADA metrics? Do you like to look at any cost per add to cart, or you're just CPA?
Just CPA, at least for Facebook. With TikTok, I think there has been more of a correlation in terms with like your CPC and CTR to CPA versus those metrics compared to a CPA based on Facebook. At least, and that again, that's.
And I think that's where we're different. There's no right or wrong, but like I'm heavily into those metrics. Doing a ton of ADA analysis, like thumb stop. We recently did a correlation analysis and found that like 3-second views divided by clicks, I think what it was like the highest correlation to CPA for us. So like if people have watched for 3 seconds, what percentage of those people clicked? And that had a pretty high correlation, much higher than thumb stop, much higher than click-through rate. So that's kind of a big one that we've been looking at. I don't know what to call it. I've been calling it like ad effectiveness. So
how is that different than a click rate though? Like it can't be, right?
Yeah,
it's the same but different.
Point.
Yeah, it's a function of click rate. It's so interesting. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just kind of
I don't know. I don't know if I totally understand it. Yeah.
When I think of thumb stop ratio, I think of a pattern interrupt, where it's like you're literally interrupting a pattern, like the scroll.
Well, what's your formula for thumb stop ratio?
We should always be
3
clear about that.
3-second views divided by impressions, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I impress, so that way I know I serve this person an ad, but then they stop for at least 3 seconds. So
the difference is
makes sense to me.
Click-through rates is from impressions. It's it's clicks divided by impressions. This is would be I forget if it's clicks first or impressions first. I always mess it up. But this one would be clicks divided by 3-second views. So it's kind of like once you got somebody, how likely are they to click? The other one is just how likely are they to click if you saw the ad?
Yep.
I like that.
So because
like that.
essentially click-through rate, and I don't know if I totally understand this completely, to answer your question, but click-through rate, you're also actually really measuring your thumb stop because it's your number you're dividing by is impressions. So it's not just desire. A lot of people use click-through rate as like the D in ADA, but it's not just that, because an element of it is also the stop. And this is just how effective is your ad once you get them.
To be fair, let me just push back a little bit.
Yeah.
I can click without interacting with the ad. Whereas a thumb stop ratio is literally I have to consume for 3 seconds before it would trigger that thumb stop. But I take what you're saying. I'm just kind of being pedantic here, where you can get shown an ad and I go boom and I slap it. The other thing is click rate is applicable across all creative types, whereas thumb stop ratio has to be
exactly.
That's
that's probably why
to videos.
We do a ton of video. We do almost no static, and Ash does a ton of static. So like it's a lot harder. Just to throw a disclaimer out there, like those are, I guess, leading indicators to CPA.
Yep.
I don't optimize off of those if our CPA is bad. I don't want a good click-through rate with a bad CPA. I think I just have to throw it out there because if you talk about click-through rate on Twitter, if you talk about thumb stop or anything else, people are like, don't optimize off those. Like those are garbage metrics. Like that's just clickbait. And it's like, it's a lot more nuanced than that. You know what I mean? Like it's really hard to have a really good CPA if you're getting an $8 click. You know what I mean?
100%.
So like it does matter to a certain degree. And when you're getting that data, so not reliable, but also so delayed from Facebook's end, it is kind of nice to know if you're on the right track. So I will definitely kill something early. And if those ADA metrics are crap, like I just know if we have a 15% thumb stop or a 0.5% click-through rate, like no matter what, the CPA is not going to be good. But
So
it gives me a little bit more.
First?
Oh, totally. Definitely.
Yeah. So it's like an order of operations.
Exactly. Totally. And then those are numbers that I might look at to try to help me improve CPA. I'm not going to look at those in absence of CPA. I'm not going to look at it in spite of it, but I'll look at those numbers to try to help me improve CPA. And usually, as long as you're doing it not clickbaity, getting those numbers better improves your cost per click, and then it can kind of make sure you're having qualified traffic. Again, with the caveat of it's not clickbaity or anything like that.
Yeah,
got it. So let me just clarify. So you did a correlation test based on, I guess, a ratio. What are you coining this ratio? What do you want to call it?
Yeah. Is this the Cody metric?
Effectiveness is what I put. I don't know. Ad effectiveness.
Let's call it.
Terrible.
Let's
You
call it
gotta
ad
be better than
effectiveness. Right? No, it's got to be better. 100%. It has to be better.
You guys name it, not me.
The Plofker proxy.
No.
No, you don't want to name it? Come on.
Nah, no one's gonna be able to say it right.
That's true.
Okay, so let's just, what is it? It's okay, so clicks divided by 3-second views. Okay, did you run a correlation test? So you did a correlation test between that metric and CPA versus, did you do the same correlation test with clicks divided by impressions? Or
Yeah,
sorry,
so we did
what's the thumb stop ratio? That's 3 seconds divided by impressions.
Yep.
Yeah, so we did it on all of those. Is we compared all of them to CPA, and found
what did those look like compared to the one that you're saying?
So nothing was statistically significant, right? Nothing is, above 95%, right?
Sure.
Statistical significance. However, there were some decent correlations, but the strongest one that we found was maybe 75% correlated. I don't remember exactly what was that one.
Okay, interesting. I fully believe it, man. I mean, like,
cool.
if you have somebody that is kind of clicking because they've been, they've related to that hook, right? You're pulling in for a certain reason, right? And then they're probably more likely to buy X, whatever it is, right? I think the same thing is happening for us. I know we're doing static and you're doing video, but like our creatives are really nailing that singular angle, and we're just trying to iterate those angles because that is probably the reason people are coming in, right? Where like, I mentioned this 2 pods ago. It's like before it used to be, this is great for this, this, and this. And then when we kind of just went, this is perfect for this, we got a little bit more qualified audience and we kind of tailored everything to that, and conversion increased and our CPA dropped a little bit. So I totally agree that like that hook, that 3 seconds is like super crucial because it could just make or break, and it could attract a different audience too. So it's like super crucial to definitely measure that. If CPAs, or like you're saying, the delayed data is not coming in, that I think is definitely a good leading indicator.
It'll just give me a little bit. That's on the creative analysis side. So then you look at, all right, hey, this ad did okay, but let me, the click-through rate was good. Average watch time was pretty good. So it was engaging, right? Like my messaging is decent, but conversion rate's not there. A lot of people would look at that and be like, it's a landing page issue. I don't necessarily think that's always true. I think a lot of the conversion is more of a persuasion thing, and it's what you're saying or not saying to sell them in the video as well. But again, you just look at those metrics and be like, all right, now if we get, we keep everything the same, but we get a better thumb stop, how does everything else improve? And theoretically it should. So that the iterative process is one reason I look at those metrics, but the other reason is, again, if we have some correlations, they're very soft correlations, not hard, but it'll give me a little bit more confidence to let those ads continue to run with a bad CPA, because not that I want ads to run with a bad CPA, but because I know that that's very delayed data, and there's a chance our CPA gets a lot better in the platform because I know that these are good ads from an engagement perspective.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Do you ever run, and I'm going to get roasted on Twitter, but a guy named Jordan he's a killer, and he's saying he's finding some success with this. Are you running any OG video view campaigns? Like people have watched over X percentage of these retargeting?
No. So you're saying like top of funnel video views, or are you saying like
retargeting? So people that have watched 50% more of the video, 75% more video, or 100% of the video, are you retargeting them at all?
Yeah. I usually like to consolidate it with some other stuff that's working.
Okay,
so
but not exclusively.
IG engagers, yeah.
But
we definitely have had that split up separately. Yeah,
are you seeing success?
That's the one. Yeah, definitely. I mean, again,
cool.
our style is very top of funnel. Like if you look at our ad library right now, we've got some new ones that are very educational. If you look at these, Thumbstop is really good at them. Average watch time is about double what our normal ads are. Click-through rate are better just by being educational. Comments and shares are way higher, right? So I think that there's some value, but that's not something I can necessarily look at and be like, all right, that correlates to, more cheaper acquisition costs or whatever. But theoretically, it again should build that middle of funnel a lot better, and then also build more affinity with those people.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and by definition, the ad's gonna win more auctions. Because it's just not just the bid. You're going to have the estimated action rate, and then you're also going to have a higher ranking because it's going to be a more engaged with ads. So you're kind of winning on all fronts there. Do you look at any other custom metrics like revenue per click or AOV or anything like that?
Yeah, I look at. I guess click to purchase is a custom metric, right?
Yeah,
that's
So conversion rate.
Click to purchase is obviously one of the main ones. Click to add to cart. I don't really look at like add to cart to purchase a ton. I have it in there. It's probably not a main one. And RPS, definitely.
Yeah.
RPS, AOV, obviously.
Yeah. I love it.
So a question, if you're doing so you're saying you're doing like a lot of educational content, right?
Yeah.
And they're a little bit more, and I guess the goal is to kind of build that middle of the funnel, right? You want a more educated consumer making a purchase with, your brand. What is your process of at least seeing if that works, right? Like, how are you measuring that? Like, I feel like before it's a lot easier, like prior to all the data loss, but now, how are you figuring out if the money you're spending on that top of the funnel for education is actually playing out to your advantage later down the line?
I guess this is my whole brand first performance marketing thesis. It's still conversion optimized campaigns. I'm still optimizing off of a CPA. But if you give me two ads with a ROAS of 1.8, and one of them is just a static image ad to a product, and another one is an educational video with a much better average watch time, I'll take that one. So if and that's kind of a gut feeling. I don't. That's subjective. I don't even know how I would go about finding that data to be able to see if there's any correlation between running those ads and Google brand search later on, right? Or anything like that, or overall MER, Because again, the theory would be they're seeing you, they're remembering you, they have a good feeling about you. The other thing I look at, a lot of these educational ones go to an educational landing page, which then go to a quiz. And so in Triple Whale, we can look at cost per email sign up. So for example, one of these is going to an advertorial 5 reasons why that goes to a quiz. We're getting like $7 emails on purchase optimized campaigns. So even though our return on ad spend is not, and we only launched these I launched these on Sunday, so it's early, but even if our ROAS is not quite the same, like, or if we are the same, that's a ton of incremental asset building that we're doing, whatever you want to call it, that I think would get a better LTV to CAC over the long term. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like our email list is huge now. Like I looked last month and hadn't looked in a while, and it's like doubled in size just because of how much traffic we're spending to quiz. And that's worth something.
And you obviously have flows on the back end, et cetera, where these touch points are going to be way cheaper than proper paid media.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully we're trying to, use paid media to build our brand instead of just using it for that purchase. But again, that being said, this is brand first performance. So we are still optimizing for purchases. We're bootstrapped, so we can't just throw money out there and hope it comes back. Like we're still optimizing to a CPA, and we're still optimizing to a CPA.
I love it. So you optimize to a CPA as well?
Yeah,
because that's what Ash does. So because you have you're kind of a young business though, right? So how do you nail down that CPA with LTV?
I bootstrapped into Ash's as well. So like, we're not really going off of an LTV. We're also just preferences and kind of growth trajectory and organic traffic. We're not aggressive. Like anybody that would come in here and would be like, you need to spend way more. We just choose not to for several reasons. One is inventory. One is profitability. We're not trying to grow at all costs. So we're really, I guess, optimizing to an MER more than anything.
Tracking there.
That's kind of the main thing. Obviously, we know our contribution margin. We know we want to break even or be profitable on first purchase. So we're kind of not going on a LTV payback period. We're kind of going off a contribution margin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you can grow a lot faster optimizing off of a 90-day LTV or a 365-day LTV. It's just not what we're choosing to do at the moment.
Yeah, year LTVs I do not recommend unless you have like a 2 to 3 year old business, because there's just a lot of fuckery that can get involved with extrapolations, especially when you get out to a year. You also run into a lot of macro headwinds that you probably won't be able to predict. But yeah, that's super smart.
Yeah, totally.
I love it.
So, all right. So here's what I realized this week, and tell me if you guys kind of agree with this, if this makes sense or not. So I noticed, and I tweeted the other day, that like the better an ad does when you launch it, the worse actually the ROAS looks in Facebook for a while. Yeah. And my theory is because a better ad, Facebook's going to put more spend behind it, right? Yes. And like at the levels, Ash and I are spending, 20 plus K a day. Like when you put something in Evergreen and it's Facebook likes it, it's going to get spend. It's going to rack up that spend really, really, really quickly. But the purchases are not going to rack up that quick. They're going to be more and more delayed. So it's like you have this seesaw, and it's like in platform. Yeah, in platform. So you have this seesaw where you're like weighting it down. It's like you're trying to balance things. In the old days, as spend went up, you would get purchases. So you could tell pretty quickly. Now it's like your spend's here, your ROAS is not coming in because it's so delayed. So it's like that's one, and you really have to be patient on this because the stats look terrible. Just like I'm telling you, like god awful. And I turned off a lot of stuff in the last month and few weeks that I shouldn't have. And then obviously hit it with the delayed attribution. But the other thing, because now the conversions are reporting on time of, correct me if I'm wrong, it's time of purchase and not time of impression, correct?
Correct. So it's the way it's bifurcated is click and event. Before it used to be click. And so if you say day 0, you clicked on an ad and then bought on day 3, day 0 would get that credit. Now, if you click on an ad on day 0, but then buy on day 3, you're going to get day 3 is going to get attributed. And so in Triple Well, you'll have a click and event date. So yeah, you're absolutely right. So
you can, those purchases, right? Especially for us, the majority of our purchases don't happen on the first day. It used to be that if somebody purchased, Facebook would go back and then attribute those purchases to those first 3 days of the ads. Now it doesn't. So overall, with that kind of new way of delayed attribution, the overall ROAS is going to get better as you let things run.
Correct.
However, right now, if I went back in, even though our overall CPA is decent, if I went back in, our first 3 days would still look awful.
Yeah.
So to me, that's fascinating. It's just something to keep in mind. It's like things are just going to look awful, and the more you're spending on something, the worse they're going to look, I think.
Exactly.
Can I say something that might I don't want it to rub you the wrong way. This is where I think our first part, the second part, we were talking about optimizing based on that 1 day click, right? For you now, you want that journey. It's going to be a lot harder for you to understand what is being attributed to your spend versus if I'm going for that 1 day click and conversion, I don't have that, and I can make decisions a little bit more quicker than you can. And I'm not saying either one is right, right? You're going for that brand performance marketing first. I'm going for like the direct response. I'm just acquiring just to acquire, and like those are the issues that you're gonna have, right? And that's all I want to say about that. But I mean, I totally understand the premise of like, okay, well, I want to educate. I want people to go down this funnel. But that's kind of why I asked you the question earlier. It's like, how are you measuring that? Are you like, you kind of have to let things run and then look back at it on like a 7 day like window and be like, okay, well, is this good? Great, let's keep it going. But then like you can't make decisions day to day, which is like it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough if you can't do that.
For sure. But you're also not making decisions day to day either. Like you said, you don't touch it for a week.
Oh, well
No,
played,
100%.
sir. Well
but
played.
I'm gonna get data right away so that I know for a fact something is working on day one. You
Sure.
don't
No, you're right.
necessarily know that.
No, I don't.
Right?
I don't.
Yeah. And again, I'm saying
Well-
I'm more so saying that I'm not touching it for 7 days because then after 7 days worth of spend, I know this is a clear winner. But on day one, I know if something is heading in that trajectory, which is the only.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, you're right. I don't. So I think two things that are important. A, you have to have like strong hands to do this. Like you have to like get away from the
100%.
computer, have patience, being willing to put 10K into an ad, and it looks like you're at like a 0.1. It looks like you've made 1,000 back, and like you just have to be okay with that. But I also think that's why you also have to be testing in a sandbox campaign, testing in an environment where you're controlling the spend and you're willing to essentially risk or lose that amount of spend, and only graduating things when you have the confidence. Like I think I would have a lot less confidence launching a brand new thing with that budget. You know, I don't think I have the confidence to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing too, Cody, you can look at is when you do in Triple Whale, you can actually look at click date. So to Ash's point, when you guys are spending at the scale you're spending at, click date's a much better way to look at the attribution than event date, because the event date or event-based attribution, when you're spending at the scale you are and launching these new creatives, the credit could be going to the wrong people, if that makes sense. Like the click base actually is going to be a better, clearer read when you're spending at that scale, because you're going to pervert the data. I'm looking at event date because again, day 0 is actually what caused the purchase, but day 3 is what's going to get the credit.
I got to do that more. So because we're running a lot of lead gen, again, still purchase optimized, but building our email list, and we have a ton of product launches, right? Like we launch multiple times a month just at this stage in our our journey. But also we've had a ton of inventory issues, so a ton of vacant stocks.
Big deal, man.
So like I know just from customer feedback on ads, CX, social, that a lot of people will comment on ads and be like, "This looks great, but I'm waiting until blank is back in stock." So I bet that there's like a big discrepancy between click and event date for that reason. Yep. And it would be really interesting to go back to click date instead of looking at event date. Because like, for example, we had a launch today, or we had a back in stock today. Like today's through the roof. And I know some of these customers, we acquired them as at least acquired their attention and acquired their email 4 days ago or whatever.
100%. That's kind of, if we can kind of segue a little bit into some attribution models, because Ash and I had a pretty interesting discussion on that. So there's ultimately a few in Triple Whale. There's first click, last click, fractional, linear, and then Triple Whale plus views. And so ultimately, the way I think about them is I'm going to use that first click attribution model when I want to scale and see what my best prospecting ads are. So what are, kind of to Ash's point, when somebody has a first click, what caused that purchase on the first click? Last click is going to be the inverse, where I'm going to scale up my retargeting campaigns based off last click. And then Triple Whale plus attribution plus view through is going to be kind of your best overall ads. But cover your ears, Cody, earmuffs. This has view through conversions, and so you want to take that with a grain of salt. And then fractional is just going to show you, fractional linear, is just going to spread that across the channels, and you're going to see what channels in your ecosystem are actually driving the conversions. And so I think that's a really interesting mental model in terms of how you're going to scale your campaigns and look at how to leverage those attribution models, because I get that question a lot. I don't think until Ash and I started jamming about it that we had a concrete answer on that.
So what are the pros and cons? Like, should there be one attribution model for your business, or should you use different ones at different times? And what are some of the pros and cons of these different attribution models or limitations?
Yeah, great question. So I guess I should probably ratchet back up for people that might not be hip to it. So first click means it's going to attribute all the actions to the first click, the first touch point of that journey. Last click is going to attribute all the success to the last touch point of that journey. Fractional is going to spread that out across any channels that were involved equally. So there's different fractional models. We use fractional linear, so it's basically there's 4 touch points. All 4 of those touch points are going to get 25% of the conversion. And then triple whale plus view through is going to be last platform touch, so it'll exclude organic and email. And then it'll also bring in view throughs as well when you have triple attribution plus view throughs.
I love those view throughs.
Yeah, hey, they're real. Don't get me wrong, they're real, but it's just you want to scale again in terms of the attribution model that will help you understand what is closer to the truth in terms of the participation of that ad. And so kind of to your question, Cody, I think that the problem with first click is that it might not close. And so if you have a longer, again, sales cycle, if you look at first click for retargeting, probably it's not going to be the path, because this wasn't the person that got the person close. This was the person that got them into the funnel. And so your educational videos might be fantastic in prospecting. And so that's why I like to use first click for prospecting. Whereas retargeting, you want to see last click is going to show you who's the closer, who's the person that is closing that sale. And so that's more, in my opinion, applicable to that retargeting. So you're maybe statics or whatever, but you want to see that retargeting. And then again, the triple whale plus view through is going to show you the kind of best overall ads that are working there. And then the fractional is going to show you what channels are actually causing purchases. So that's kind of just how I think of it.
So say you're like 8 Sleep, right? Like let's say you're selling mattresses with obviously a long sales cycle. You would be using for your prospecting first click. Like that's kind of what you'd be relying on, because
correct.
They're probably not buying from that ad directly, but you want to know what's feeding them.
Yep. So when I'm looking at the success of when I'm looking to scale my prospecting ads, I'm going to use that first click attribution. And then conversely, when I'm looking to scale my retargeting ads, I'll switch that attribution model to last click, because I want to see what ads are actually closing people.
What if you were, I don't know, but what if you were a low AOV product, like a $30 product, pretty low sub $50 AOV? What would you recommend?
Mostly first click, because you're probably not going to have the opportunity to do retargeting, because you're going to have economics that just don't warrant that. So I want to see what can cause a purchase, or at least get somebody into my funnel, and then I can do the Cody thing and look at my email signups, hit them on email. But
you wouldn't do last click for that?
No, I mean, again,
because it's a shorter funnel, right? Like that
exactly. I mean, you could kind of have 6 on one or the other. It's more so the layers of where the ads are. So I wouldn't be running retargeting in a low AOV type of business, and so then that makes kind of last click a moot point. But to your point, it'll be a little bit of 6 of one, half dozen of the other with first click, last click. But it's more so where the ads are in the funnel is when I choose to use the attribution model. And honestly, in that sense, I might just be looking at triple whale plus view throughs, because I'm just trying to figure out what the hell's driving some semblance of performance, because you don't have that sophisticated of a marketing ecosystem. You're basically an AOV kind of break even at that point. Like, so whatever's getting me on basically ultimately the cheapest first touch points get me in.
Well, to that point, what if I would imagine first click might kind of match up, right? In that scenario,
it's gonna be very close. Yeah, it'll be very close to your first click and your last click, because there's not a lot of differentiation in the journey, and there's not going to be multiple touch points usually.
Yeah, definitely.
What about when is fractional important? Like, when does fractional help?
For me, fractional is useful to understand channel kind of contribution. So not
like
necessarily
between paid channels.
Between paid channels, exactly. Okay. So you're going to see, like, when you use that fractional attribution, you're going to see is Facebook driving it, is Google driving it, and so on and so forth. And so you're going to see that ROAS switch. And you got to remember, fractional will have kind of more than the whole, because it'll give credit across all those channels. And so if you have 10 purchases, you could have 20 purchases spread out across all these different channels. And so that's why it's not necessarily a great quantifiable attribution model, but it's very good at qualitative, where it's like qualitatively, this channel is driving and this channel is driving and this one isn't. And so that's why when I would apply fractional, where it's more so to understand at the channel level contribution more so than the campaign ad or ad set.
So in general, are there any data delays on Triple Whale? Like obviously Facebook is delayed up to 72 hours. It's like time of conversion.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So that's what's nice about it.
And what is like, so on like triple attribution plus views, like what is the attribution window? Is it 7 days? Is it unlimited?
It's going to be 7-day view, 1-day click.
Okay.
Or I mean,
Okay,
7-day click, 1-day view. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
What the Facebook does open up that 28-day view or 28-day click, 1-day view window, and you'll be able to see kind of longer look backs, but ultimately it's going to be based on the account, and everybody's account is essentially set to 7-day click, 1-day view.
Got it. Okay. So then if you see any delayed, attribution in there, it's because of people purchasing within that window, but outside of like that day. It's not because of like a delay.
Exactly. And so you will see, again, like longer look back. So if you look at kind of the LTVs, you'll be able to say 30, 60, 180. But again, it's going to be more so to your point, like we're catching this and then attributing it to it, but it's not going to be within the attribution window, which is really what you care about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because again, that's why I wasn't sure. I didn't think there were any delays, but like our triple ROAS does continue to get better as we launch stuff and it goes on. And obviously it's because
it's just because you're so good.
No, it's the opposite. I'm not like Ash. I can't get them to buy on the first purchase, so we have to wait a little bit.
He won't give this up. It's like a dog with a bone. I love this guy.
I'm saying I'm not as good as Ash.
No, I love it. But sorry if we got kind of nerdy there, folks. But I think it's really important to understand kind of the attribution models of when and when not to use them, and ping us offline or whatever if you do have more questions. But all right, we got 9 minutes. Cody has a hard cutoff. He has to go fix his driveway pavement. They were off 4 feet, and so he's gonna go out there and fix it up. What else do you guys want to get into?
I think what else was on that list?
You guys want to do some trivia? I have some data.
Yeah, I got one question for Ash, but then
okay.
and then yeah. So
okay,
Ash,
cool.
You're saying, I was just thinking about this week because you're telling me, you don't touch anything in your main scaling campaign, right? And you're testing 40 creatives a week. How are you getting enough budget to test those 40 creatives? Like it seems like either you're spending a ton on creative testing or you're really spreading out that budget to cover 40.
So here's the exact budget layout and campaign structure, if this helps anyone. But basically I have 2 ad accounts. Each ad account is for a separate product. One's like our weight loss product and the other one's one beauty product. In each account, I have a scaling campaign around $75,000 to $10,000 a day. Then within that is a testing campaign at $1,000, right? So it's about 10% of the scaling. So, I mean, it's really 10%. It's only 10%, and it typically does drive decent conversions on most weeks. There's weeks where it's just really shit and it'll bring up our average, acquisition cost. But I mean, as we keep making iterations, it'll tend to get better, right? So as we get closer to, okay, well, this angle is working, and it's really broken down across like 40 creatives are broken down across 4 different angles per product. So it's really not, it's like 5 ads per angle per product, right? So the thing is, out of let's say between the 2 testing campaigns, there's only really going to be 2 or 3 that get all the spend, right? Yeah. And I know people are like, well, how do you know the other creators are not getting spend, this and that? Like, I don't care. Like, if Facebook says this is what needs to get the spend and this is what's getting engagement and it's converting, like, that's the winner. Like, I don't have time to be like, okay, well, let's set up an ad set, let's put this here and this here and this here, and like give every single creative enough budget. Like, no.
You should do 40 ad sets. You should do 40 ad sets. One ad.
I would rather I'd sell the business and I'd be done. Like, there's no way that I'm gonna do this every week. I need to give Facebook 40 creatives, let it decide. If it decides this is a winner, great, put it in scaling. Like, you just have to make it easier on yourself. Like, you can't be like so scientific and like, well, like I gotta have statistical significance on like this ad set versus this. Like, enough. Like, just make it simple. And
so some of those creatives are like not getting any spend really.
Yeah, and the reason it's not is because Facebook doesn't think it's engaging.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And to be fair too, so I used to, when I ran my agency, I used to do a lot of dynamic creative testing. And that was a big issue because Facebook was basically a first mover. So the first in dynamic creative. And so like the first thing that hit dynamic creative would just eat up all the spend. And so what I would do is pull out kind of the winners and then let those other people fight it out. But what Ash is doing is actually way better because you that is optimized exactly right where whatever Facebook likes, it's going to get, and it's going to spread out that optimization pretty effectively. Whereas in dynamic creative, I had multiple winners a lot of times in that, and so I had to pull them out and then scale that and then run that dynamic creative test again. But Ash is essentially circumventing that by giving basically everybody a free chance, and it's not going to be as much of a winner take all issue as when you do dynamic creative testing. It's a big issue where basically like one thing wins and then nothing ever sees any sort of spend at all.
Yeah. And to be fair, there's going to be weeks where we don't have time for the designers to pump out creative. I'll probably go back and find the creatives that didn't get any spend and maybe put them into another environment where it's with the other creatives that didn't get spend, and then see what happens there, right? At the end of the day, if something performs and it's creating a better CPA than something that's in the scaling campaign, great. That's all I care about. Move on to the next. But like I said, now we have a backlog of creatives that may make it to the next round of testing. But that's just how we're doing it, and it's helping us find more stability. And our CPA is coming down, so
it's huge. It's huge. Okay, let's get into a couple trivia questions, and then we'll sign off because it's Cody. We're pushing up against it. Okay, we tracked about 578 million in ad spend. What do you think the top spending channel was, and how much? Cody, you can go first, and then Ash.
Facebook.
Okay, how much?
578
is the whole. Yeah,
I'm saying 60% of that. I'm not going to do public math, but I'm going to say 60% of that.
I'll do it quickly for you. Whoops.
Is that 300 million? Something around that?
Look at, man, that's not bad. 347. 347.4. We'll call it 348. Okay, Ash, where are you at? Biggest spending channel.
Cody said 60%. I think it's closer to like 75, 80.
Okay, let's go. I'll give you 80. Oops.
So that's
you're probably more right.
That's
now you can't change it.
I'm sticking by mine. I'm just saying I'm probably wrong.
462. Okay.
462. Okay.
Well, if we're doing Price is Right rules, you would bust, Ash, but you are definitely way closer. Facebook was 450.3 million in quarter one.
Jeez.
And again, this is going to be a quarter over quarter comparison, but it was down 26%. But there's some seasonality in there where Q1 is always going to be less than Q4. But okay, what's the second channel? Google or TikTok?
Google.
Okay.
Google.
Where are you at? How much,
Yeah.
Cody? So 420 is
What
gone.
do we say? Yeah. So
Or 450, excuse me. 450 is gone. So you got...
Do you have 100 million left?
128.
So I'm saying if it's 128, I'm saying like 17 of it went to TikTok. The rest went to Google.
Okay. So is that 111? Okay. Where are you at, Ash?
Yeah, I think that split makes sense. Like 100 to Google, the rest to TikTok.
You guys are a little better on this one.
So I'll go. I'll go 111. Ash will go 100.
Okay. You're 111. Boom. You guys are tied now. So I guess the TikTok. Well, I guess you can do the math. So the TikTok won't even be the ad breaker. But yeah. So buck 17, basically 116.78 million. And again, this is across about 2,700 merchants in 60 different countries. So, and that was up 31% quarter over quarter, which is very interesting to me. And then TikTok, even though it is growing like a weed, it's 110% growth quarter over quarter, basically came in at 10.9 million. So it's still just an absolute drop in the bucket, which was
That'll
crazy
be
to
interesting
me.
to see though, like as you track that, how that's going to go.
Well, for me, it'll be interesting when we have Q2 over Q1 because Q4 just has a lot of seasonality perversions where it's going to be one of the most expensive. Like it was the most expensive. CPMs are way down compared to Q4. So it's obviously going to be the most expensive and usually the highest scale because that's when people spend the most. But I thought I'd give you guys a little taste of some fun data here. Cody, we have 1 minute. Sign off. Tell the people how to sign
I don't
up
have
for
like
your
a hard
newsletter.
stop, so I got a few more minutes.
Okay, well, I got a pee, so I got a hard stop.
All right.
So. Well, guys, you got me on the Plofker kind of hydration, and now it's just you're just discombobulating
But look how
me
good your
everywhere.
skin looks. Look how hydrated you look.
I'm burnt though. That marine layer got me. It was freezing in San Diego, but I didn't realize you can get. My hand got sunburned. I was a wreck.
Jeez.
I was a wreck. I'm gonna try to get these guys out to Miami. Geek out. Let's go, peeps. Cody, tell the people where to follow you. Tell them about your newsletter. What else you got going? Your masterclass. Let them all know.
Hit me up on Twitter, Cody Ploff on Twitter, link in bio. You can find my newsletter. Actually, just about to release like a personal website, so that'll have a link in there as well. But that, and then if you wanna kind of borrow some of my time on Mentor Pass, you can check it out. Schedule a hour call with me just to get any questions answered. But if not, just hit me up on Twitter.
Fantastic. He's a wonderful feed and a great newsletter as well.
Appreciate it.
Ash, let the people know.
Follow me on Twitter, Ashvin Melwani. I'm gunning for 10K followers, hopefully soon.
Jeez, you savages. That's incredible. You guys are massive. Let's go. Let's get them over the 10K, folks. Come on. We'll give you some swag or something like that. We'll hook you up. We'll get you out there. My Obby swag is awesome.
Yeah.
You guys launched some really cool stuff.
Yeah, some new stuff coming out. But yeah, let's see how it goes.
Cool. What, no product plugs or nothing? You guys just launched the cool collagen stuff, right? The new flavors and everything?
Oh, we just launched we're launching new gummies this week. Friday. We're doing super fruit gummies. So get your fruits and vegetables in, and then ashwagandha gummies. So keep it
Whoa.
Yeah,
love it.
It'll be good. Cody, how'd you like the collagen? You picked it up.
Dude, I loved it. I loved it. Mix it in with some almond milk. Yeah, I got I think it was like the cookie one. I don't know if it was. It wasn't the donut one, but it was the Entenmann's one. Yeah. It was. I really liked it. Tastes great. Like good, awesome. Like dessert mix. Yeah.
And you don't even have to order it on the site, right? You guys are in what, GNCs or Vitamin Shop?
Vitamin Shop nationwide, 600 stores nationwide. Just launched 2 weeks ago.
Let's go.
So if you buy one, go check it out. Send me a picture, tweet me a picture. But just check it out.
Beautiful. All right, folks. If you do want to get more involved with Triple Whale, we are trytriplewhale.com. We have a wonderful newsletter that goes out whale mail Tuesday, Thursday, and then we're on the Bird app at Triple Whale. Boys, thank you for another session. Thank you for all the time and the fantastic questions. Cody, happy to have you back. Congrats again on the bun in the oven. Well done, sir. And Ash, love the hoodie. I need some swag help here. We are dying for some swag, and you are the man. So I'm going to pick your brain some more on that. Folks, subscribe, share, do whatever you need to do. Spread the gospel far and wide. And that's all we got for it. Another one in the books. Thanks, guys.
Peace.
Take care.